Welcome back to the Mid-Year YouTube channel. Today's episode diving back into the Tribute Split. This time we're working on getting this car into a solid foundation fiberglass wise. We need to fix up a firewall, install that, install some new fiberglass rockers, fix the main cabin floor, and install a brand new dynamic Corvette big tub rear floor kit to work with our Roadster Shop Spec 7 chassis. So we have a lot of work to do, so be sure to stick around. Also, if you guys haven't seen, I just ticked over 10,000 subscribers. I really want to thank you guys for subscribing, commenting, sharing the videos, all the support. It really helps me do what I do and do a better job at it. Also, this is one thing in the world that's still free. Watching my videos and watching YouTube is free. So if you want to show your support for the channel, hit that subscribe button. It really helps me a lot, and it helps me continue to do these types of build with your support. So hopefully we'll hit another big milestone here very soon, and I appreciate it. So I have the Tribute Split project sitting on a brand new Roadster Shop Spec 7 chassis that we got delivered in the last video. This has been in storage, waiting patiently for a body. So this car was basically put together from 3 or 4 different projects. It took quite a while to get everything lined up, get the geometry right. But because of that, we have a really nice bird cage and a really nice project sitting in front of us. So now, this is where the fun begins. We have to start off by getting the bird cage shimmed up and actually get body mounts under it because it's just sitting here. We need to get it spaced up, and it's time to put together a firewall for this, and we have to work on the floor pan. I loosely mocked up 2 firewalls here. You can see they're still in pretty rough shape. We have a lot of fiberglassing to do to make these guys work. But this one, this red one, has the full upper surround that we need. That's important. And this guy over here, unfortunately, is missing this corner. But we have enough here. We should be able to make pretty much 2 firewalls. We'll just have to splice it in through this little wiper tray area. And then over here, and like I said, we're gonna go with a dynamic smooth firewall on this. That'll help blend this together. I have the firewall pieces trimmed up and they're looking pretty good. We have a nice little gap the whole way around. Now I need to come through here and grind this whole area in here so we can fiberglass that. I will bolt it down to the bird cage like it is now. We'll put some fiberglass in the top, then we'll pull it off once that cures and really grind the inside and make sure we fiberglass both sides to make that nice and strong. Now over here, we pulled this chunk off of that other firewall, and if I lay it over here, you get an idea of what we're looking at for a splice here. To do this, I need to remove all these nut plates. I need to remove what's left of the gas pedal. Got to pull the seat belts out, and I started mocking up the rear floor here just to get an idea of, you know, what do we have to do? What do we have to cut here? I've never done one of these. So if you're doing this, and this is in your car, it's going to be a little bit different than what I'm doing here because, well, there's not a whole car around. I'm kind of cheating, but I like to do a full mock-up of everything before I start gluing stuff together. So to do that, I need to cut the rear part of the floor out, and to know where to cut, I need to put this stuff back here. So this stuff is not sitting down perfectly flat because there's stuff in the way. I've cut a couple of these out before, so I roughly know where to cut. But to start off, you need to remove all your little brackets. There were some of these on the wheel well to hold up a little cover that covered up the little squirrel cage blower motor in the back. So I had to remove all of those to get this to fit a little bit closer. So I think what we're going to do is cut a little conservative to start out here, just because, well, I don't know what all we're doing quite yet. So if I pull pull this guy out, set it somewhere where it doesn't get hurt. I'm going to cut through this line here so we remove the wheel tub, because that's really what we're interfering with along this radius. I'll figure out exactly where in this transition we have to cut, because, well, we don't want to cut so much that this back part of the floor just falls off. That's not our goal here. So I'm going to cut as little as possible, but where I need to. I'm probably going to have to come through here, go around this body mount, and then either come, I think we have to come straight across. Part of this, I think, I'm trying to remember from Overkill. I think I just came straight across the back, the same on that side. pop our little trunk here. Then I'll probably have to come through here and cut. I might leave a little bit of a lip here, but we'll probably come right through here. I decided to mock up basically the whole firewall back just to make sure everything is jiving the way I think it should and it would. So we have the roof on here. We have the main floor pan in here. I cut the center of the floor out and I put the dynamic floor in, and I'm testing it with our firewall fitment here. So everything's fitting pretty much just as I thought. You can see there's some holes here that we have to fill. I have some rockers coming tomorrow from Dynamic. But this floor fits really nice. I wanted to make sure that this was as prototypic as possible to what you guys will be doing at home. So I put the roof on this just to check fitment. And you can see that this rear floor fits really nice, just with a little bit of pressure. This gap looks good. May have to do a little trimming in certain areas to let this sit all the way down. And I need to make sure that this floor is flat. It's not being sucked down, and make sure nothing weird's happening. But overall, the gaps are nice. So I've been busy making a bunch of little spot repairs on the firewall. There were some little cracks in these areas that I went and repaired. And then I made some pieces off of this brand new firewall I have over here that's in my personal inventory. I've just been using, waiting to build this car, but I've been using it in the meantime to make molds off of. So I pulled a mold off of this corner over here. Since this guy is missing, I made this little ear that goes somewhere like that. And then I also made this little piece here, which this guy is the most important right now because the floor bonds right to here. So this piece is important in terms of structure, which this guy and this other guy are still important, but we don't need them. We don't need to make those repairs yet, but I just want to make the pieces since I had the firewall down here. So now the firewall is in a pretty good spot. I prepped this area up here to get it ready to glue. And once this sets up, I'll rough these areas up with 36 grit. And then I'm gonna go ahead and rough this up, make sure all this stuff here is prepped properly. And then we're gonna glue the firewall on, but it's just gonna take some time for that to happen. So now I need to work on getting the roof clamped in place pretty close to where it's gonna sit, because I wanna make sure that the floor is in the correct location, because right now she's a little floppy. So I'm gonna come in here, get some clamps, make sure this is in the right spot, make sure that this isn't sticking out too far past the door. Once I do that the whole way around, then we can start making our marks to figure out, you know, is the wheel well, is it centered, is it looking good, how's everything lining up? Once I'm happy with that, I'll pull the wheel houses and this floor out because I marked them. I'm gonna grind everything. There's a couple areas I need to remove a little bit of material just to make them fit tighter. So I have the firewall glued in. I let this sit up overnight, and this should be nice and solid now. So I'm gonna pull the clamps off, and now it's time to get these rockers fit up in here. Now, whenever Dynamic sends these, they have a little bit of extra material on them. There was a little triangle here, and then that area was closed off where the hinge pillar goes. I still need to go and clean some of the lips off, get these sanded up so that way they fit in the car. We need to get these mocked up to make sure our main floor height is correct. We don't want it to be too high or too low, and we don't want it to be off center. We want to make sure everything's locked in place. Once we have those in place, we know that the floor, this part of the floor is where it needs to be. That means this part of the floor is where it needs to be. And then I can work on getting these guys glued in. So I need to go ahead, maybe remove a little bit of this lip right here. And we're gonna go sand all these areas that are reliefed, which are really nice and have a really nice surface finish. We're gonna go over this with 36 grit the whole way down through here. This lip, I need to clean this area up for the transmission tunnel just to make that fit a little better. And then I need to trim some of this lip off to get this to fit further back. I bonded both these splash shields in place because I realized I actually need these in place to glue the floor in. So I went and watched the video that they have on their website for Dynamics big tub rear floor, and I saw he showed us, he walked us through kind of where you cut, and this is the one image that he showed with this in place. And you need to cut this splash shield basically in line with the bird cage, which is hiding under here. And then I could see there's this little bit of a line here, body line, and it looks like they put a piece of tape, it looks like, what, 1-inch tape right over that line. So I measured 1 inch up across here. That was my cut line here. And then I'm just gonna come straight up through here into the wheel well where I've already cut. And then on the inside, I'm not terribly sure where I need to cut. So I'm just gonna take 1 inch off the top of this because I know this is about where our tub is. So I'm just gonna get some of this stuff out of the way, cut the whole way across, get these pieces out of the way so that way I can get the rear tub actually fitting in here how it's supposed to. So I have all the excess fiberglass removed. I removed on the original floor pan across the edge here about 1 inch down from that lip that was here by the tunnel. Cut that the whole way across, brought that line the whole way over to the bird cage. And then on the bird cage side, I basically cleaned up that splash shield so it's flush with the bird cage. You can see that back here, the way this overlaps, I also cut out this little opening here for the body mount and lined the two of those up. So you can see everything's fitting up pretty nice here. An area that you want to make sure is nice and tight is right up in here. Make sure that that closes up real good. And if there's any little gaps, I'll just fiberglass all that stuff from the inside. That's no problem. I just wanted to make sure I took enough off so I have some wiggle room to get it into the car. There's a lot of tar and undercoating that they used originally. They undercoated like this whole area. So I just took a drill with a wire wheel on it, cleaned all that off. And then once you get that off, you can bring your paper in there and clean that up. You really can't get it off with the paper just because it'll start to gum up and you'll go through it fast. So the wire wheel took care of that, no problem. The whole idea is to get the big chunk of the floor out of the way first, and then you whittle it down to get the floor pan and everything to fit in real nice. So I have the rear floor installed in the car. I let this thing sit up for a couple days just to make sure it's good and solid. And well, it feels pretty solid. Now we can go ahead and pull the clamps off, get the screws out, fill those few screw holes, and we're sure this thing's in here nice and solid. Now we can move on to the rest of the good stuff. So now it's time to jump up into the firewall and floor area. You can see we've got a hole here. We've got a couple air gaps here. So I need to cut a piece of this toe board off. I need to trim this piece to fit. We'll go ahead and glue these pieces to the firewall, and then we'll go ahead and fiberglass the toe board to the main floor, and that will attach the front of the floor to the firewall. That'll seal up this area. Once that kicks, then we'll go ahead and install these fiberglass rockers on both sides, and then that'll about do it for the cabin work of this car. So I hustled for the rest of the day here to get this as wrapped up as I can. So I have the toe boards glued to the firewall, all three of the pieces that I trimmed up, and then I put the foil tape on the firewall here once this guy cured up. I went and hand laid fiberglass all across the inside of the seams here to strengthen the floor up and tie both pieces of floor together. In a couple areas I went from the floor to the firewall just to help tighten that up. I have these ratchet straps in here pulling up on the floor on the outsides, and then I have a floor jack under the center of the floor to keep tension up here. So then I went and pulled the rockers out, scuffed those real good, and then glued them in across those seams in the front, or the back and the front. Got all that tightened up on both sides, and I'm happy with the way they turned out. So unfortunately we can't climb inside the car in this video, you know, to see how strong it is. But in the following video, once all this stuff cures up, then we'll be able to climb inside, which is exciting because then we get to go to the exterior fiberglass. We got to work on getting this roof and rear deck glued on. So we should be able to pull these few screws out, fill these holes with some glue, and then, you know, they can be body worked and after that. But you don't have to use screws. I use screws just to make sure that this is bonded really well, and well, I'm happy with the results. So we're gonna let this guy cure up, and in the next video we're gonna jump on to getting this rear deck to fit perfect. We're gonna get the bonding strips for the quarter panel, taillight panel on it, and get the taillight panel glued on as well. If you're doing this floor tub conversion at home, you don't need a lift to do this. You can see I have it sitting on the chassis. You don't need any crazy tools to do it. You just need some cutting tools and some grinding tools and stuff to glue it on with. If you don't plan on picking the body back up, I have some lips left over here where this is about a finger width deep here. If you don't want to do that, you can sit here and slowly whittle this back, and same with the rear bulkhead and some of this stuff. You can really take your time and get that smoothed out. I left some long pieces in there. We can go back and trim that up later. I just wanted to get it glued in place, and then we'll whittle it away later, and then it can be body worked and cleaned up. So there's a number of ways that you can do this. Dynamic Corvette gives you a good video online about how they do it, and this is one way to do it. If you were building a car that wasn't from pieces, you would do it different than I did here, but this is just one way to do it. So hopefully that helped somebody out there. And now the Tribute Split now has a floor from front to back. In another video, I'll go through and smooth the firewall, fix all these little cracks and divots and stuff in it. We'll get that shored up, get this piece added on over here, and then we'll put a smooth firewall kit in on this as well. So this will get fixed up in a future video, but I want to get the firewall back done before we get onto the firewall. We'll do all this firewall stuff before we put the front end on, so that's still a ways down the road. But that's gonna do it for this video. If you enjoyed, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. So we're really starting to get rocking and rolling on this car, and I got a lot of work to do, so I'll catch you guys later.